One day I was coming out of work at 1010 Main Street where I was working at the time. And at that time, I happened to have been driving an Audi wagon that was a quite fun car to drive. That was the car I happened to have at the time. And one day I came out of work and there was another Audi parked right next to mine. And it turned out that apparently I had parked my car in a way that the bumper of my car was touching up against the bumper of this other Audi. So I come out of work and there is this note written and left under the windshield of my car. And it says something very indignant, like, you may not happen to respect your car, but I do respect my car. And it is not okay that you parked your car with the bumper of your car touching the bumper of my car. And you better not do this again because I have pictures that I have taken that have shown your car touching up against my car, and there's going to be a problem if this happens again. And for many of you that know me, I have an incredible amount of patience. But that kind of a questioning my integrity, that's a quick way to piss me off. And immediately I just wanted to write out a sheet of paper, a letter, like just completely using my psychotherapy skills for evil to shred this person a new asshole. That's what I really wanted to do in a lot of ways. So I noticed that urge to get out this sheet of paper, and I decided that isn't really the kind of action I want to take. It isn't really the kind of person I wanted to be, even though you could say that I was justified in some sense for doing that. So I tried to reflect on it, and a while later, maybe a couple days later, I did write some kind of a response, and that response was based on me saying this is the kind of person I strive to be, a person with integrity, a person with beliefs that are valuable and are functional. And I said, among other things, what I really value and respect in other people is patience and understanding. And that what I would have liked from this person was, in a sense, some patience and understanding, some assumption that maybe I didn't have bad intentions, or trying to see what happened in the best possible kind of light, which is certainly not what the person did. He just completely jumped right down my throat with this letter he had written. So I wrote out this letter, and I was kind of close to putting it onto his car, and something in me said, this isn't quite the time to do this. And so what I did was I took the letter and I put it back in my car, folded up, and I let it sit there. And I let all this kind of mull implicitly through my awareness, and spent weeks with that letter just sitting in my car. And a couple weeks later, I noticed it again and looked at it again, and it just didn't seem all that important. So I put it back into the car and just let it sit again for probably several months, wanting on the one hand to respond, to do something, but at the other hand wanting to really make sure that what I did was really coming from my values and my integrity and what's important to me and what I would consider right action. And at this point, I wasn't able to convince myself that what I was doing by leaving that letter was right action. So again, I held back on giving that letter to this person. So several months, as I said, went by, and I kept reflecting on this and wondering what to do and thinking about how I would write the letter differently. And then something interesting happened, and that was I was trying to get out of a parking space that was pretty tight on that same street after leaving work, same kind of context as when I got this letter from this guy. And what happened was, on my way of trying to get out of the tight space, I inadvertently bumped a bit into the car that was in front of me. And it turns out the person who owned that car was in the car at the time and steps out of the car. And my first thought is, oh crap, here we go with another indignant asshole. That's my first reaction immediately to this happening. And the guy gets out of the car, doesn't seem to have an upset look. And what he does is he actually moves out into the street and starts giving me hand signals for how to get out of this parking spot without bumping anything more. This guy wasn't looking to jump down my throat. He was actually trying to help me out of the spot. So I do the maneuvering, and I am just at the point where I know that I can absolutely get myself out of this parking spot. And before I leave, I put the car in park. I open the window and I say, thank you very much for your respect and understanding, and thank you for the help getting out of the parking spot. I hope you have a great week. So then I put the car into park and I get ready to drive off. And I spend another couple weeks, maybe even a couple months, still with that letter in my car, really looking for right action and looking for the right thing to do. And after quite a while, I see the letter, and at some point, having had this new experience with somebody that really did give me the benefit of the doubt, that really sought to find a way to respect me as a human being and to respect himself in a way through his right action, I saw that letter quite a while later, and I just looked at it and just realized how much wanting to respond to him was really trying to convince myself in a way of my own righteousness, of my own doing the right thing, of knowing what the right thing to do was. And that really it isn't my job to teach this person a lesson. It isn't my job to tell this person anything. And in that sense, there's nothing that I needed to do with respect to this person or this letter he wrote. So after a bit more thinking about that, I just picked up the letter one day and just shredded it. I just destroyed it and never ever responded to that person again, because in a way at this point I didn't need to. I knew who I am as a person. I knew how I tried to act, and I knew what had happened in this situation, and that this situation had really nothing to do with me as a person or my situation in the world, or for that matter my values. And in that sense I didn't need to respond to it. So one of the concepts we talk about sometimes in ACT is the difference between decisions and choices. Decisions are things that we come to based on a context of a situation, an intended outcome that we have related to that situation. They are evidence of us, in a metaphorical sense, doing the math of this is where I sit, this is what I want to have happen, therefore this is the way I would go about doing that. Decisions are things that we use our rational minds to come to. And again, they're things that we think through based on logic. Choices are really something entirely different. And choices are reflections of our deepest values and our ourselves from our deepest integrity. Choices are not based on a situation. They are not based on an intended outcome. They are not. They don't involve math. They don't involve just thinking through things. They're just an expression of who we want to be as human beings and what we know to be the right thing to do. So part of what's interesting to me about this story with me and this letter from this driver is that for me that was an opportunity to initially notice a desire to take action based on a decision. My decision was that I wanted to justify myself and or rip this new person a new asshole, or somehow make things right or make things feel right. But really that was coming from decision making. And part of what I was able to do in that situation is that I was able to recognize that I was acting from a decision based on something that had a lot of emotional intensity to it. So what I chose to do instead was to not act from a decision and to keep letting that letter and my response to that letter sit until over months and months and months of time, I was able to let this whole situation settle out and come to a point where I could make a choice. And in that case, the choice was simply to continue to try to be somebody that's as thoughtful and respectful and carries himself with as much integrity as is reasonably possible. And that in that sense, writing the letter or leaving the letter or responding to this person there was no real way to do that in a way that really reflected what my values are, and therefore to shred that letter and to not send it and not do anything with it. A lot of situations that we come to in life are like that. They are situations that become very intense, and because they are intense, we really want to respond to them with decisions. And though situations are intense, it can be very easy to be attracted to the decision rather than taking the opportunity to go deeper into allowing a choice to arise. And sometimes the intensity of the situation obscures the ability for us to arrive at a choice and as a way to respond to the situation. So sometimes what we need to do then is do nothing. Sometimes the right thing to do is to just let the situation sit and keep letting our implicit minds or our deeper selves explore the situation and eventually wait patiently until there's the point that a choice arises, and then to take action based on the choice rather than the decision.